VikesNow. I am Dustin Baker. We have just a couple of days before the NFL draft, and we're getting everybody's takes, everybody's opinions, predictions, and we haven't limited it to, just Vikings fans. We have a Steelers fan and a guy who writes all over the place, Jarrett Bailey. How are you on this, what are we at, Tuesday?
Yeah, Tuesday. Yeah,
Mhm.
everything just blends together at this point.
Yep.
I mean, I'm good. I'm ready for this to be done. We're talking in the lobby. Like by the time we get to like that first wave of free agency's done, and then everybody's like, "Oh, check out my mock draft on." Dude, I don't care. I'm done. Josh, I'm not trying to crap on you, man. I promise, because I
It's
know
all
that's.
good.
But oh my goodness, like I understand it has its thing where people really enjoy it, and I understand its place in terms of like content and whatnot. I totally get it. Just not for me. At least not in April. Like once we get to April, I'm like, and I'm gonna do my own too and whatnot. And the last one that I did, I prefaced it with like literally saying, I hate mock drafts. Anyway, here's my mock draft. Like we'll just knock that out of the way. But yeah, guys, I'm doing well. It's a little bit chilly here in Pittsburgh today. So, just that up and down Midwestern America weather that seems to be keeping continuing to creep in and out, but I'm good.
Awesome. So with that opinion, even of your own mock drafts, do you kind of half-ass them, or do you put your whole heart into your thinking cap?
If I'm gonna put something, content wise, I'm gonna take it seriously. I'm gonna,
Yeah.
make sure that I do it to, if I say something or predict something, it's genuinely what I think will happen. So I don't half-ass them. Now, if there's one that I'm just like gonna post on Twitter and just BSing, or like, all right, the Steelers traded up to 3 and got Marvin Harrison. How about that? Like no. But if it's something that I'm publishing somewhere, I sit down and I take it seriously and I make sure that it's what I think will happen.
Okay. And then in case I forget at the end, where do you write? It's a lot of spots, right?
Yeah, wherever pays me at this point.
Yeah.
So you can find my work USA Today for Touchdown Wire, as well as Behind the Steel Curtain. I'm the deputy editor. Say that 5 times fast for the Steelers page for SB Nation, and then A to Z Sports as well.
Okay, fantabulous. All right, Josh, we're going to intermix this with some Vikings questions and some general NFL draft questions. So why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, so obviously we're in the heat of rumor season right now. Ton of quote unquote smoke screens being thrown out there by some teams. What is the one thing being reported right now, I guess, in terms of a smoke screen that you feel like is just not going to come to fruition when the draft comes around?
I don't know, like the stuff with Washington seems a little bit weird. Like the way that they're going about like their visits and stuff, taking everybody to what Top Golf, is that what they did? Let's take everybody. We're gonna take all of our visits to Top Golf and see how this goes. Like apparently that's something like similar to what the 49ers did, and obviously Adam Peters coming over from San Francisco, bringing that with him, I guess. But just take Drake May. This seems pretty cut and dry. I don't see why we're having internal conversations about this. Like you're gonna have the opportunity to take Drake May, and I think that there's gonna we've seen the conversations about like, oh man, could they take JJ McCarthy at 2, or like if they do, everyone should be fired because that's stupid. I don't know why you do that when the clearly better prospect is. I think Drake May is very clearly top 2 in this class. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert when it comes to college quarterback play. I'm very openly like a casual college guy who, watches these guys when I absolutely have to, which is around January when Senior Bowl stuff starts happening. So, but, from what I've seen, I would say Drake's probably the second best quarterback in this class. And there seems to be like this maybe cult. I don't know. My buddy Thor Nystrom really wants JJ McCarthy to be a Minnesota Viking, and I don't see the love for JJ McCarthy. I think that there's not a high ceiling there. So it's 50-50. Like people either really love JJ McCarthy or you really just think he's mid. I think he'll be, another guy in the NFL. I don't think he's going to be anything special. So the thing with Washington is weird. I think that you're going to have the opportunity to take Drake May. You should take Drake May. Everything else around it just seems weird.
Yeah, I think at least in terms of sticking and picking a quarterback, it seems to have kind of come to that sort of conclusion over the past couple of days, which I also agree with. I think they should just probably do that, considering who knows when their next chance to go get a franchise quarterback is going to be. I'd lean towards Jaden Daniels in that spot, but Drake May too. I mean, those two are kind of like neck and neck for me in terms of the top behind Caleb Williams, but
The thing with Jaden Daniels, man, is that he's what is he, 6 feet tall and 77 pounds or whatever the hell he's so
give or
tiny.
take.
Yeah. And just the way that I saw somebody say, like, we know what Jaden Daniels is. It's called Justin Fields. And we all see the potential with Fields and everything. Like, he's got the big arm and he's got, the ability, as a dual threat guy. He's a guy who's rushed for over 1,000 yards in a season before. We know he's talented, but man, like, eventually you got to see that progression.
Right.
And we'll see what this year brings for him in Pittsburgh. Obviously, as a Steelers fan, I'm excited to see what that could look like. But yeah, I don't know if I'm in on Jaden Daniels. I know that Dan Orlovsky really likes him a lot, and Dan played quarterback in the league, and I'll obviously defer to him when it comes to the ins and outs of quarterback play. But I don't know. Well, he's exciting, but he plays quarterback like Steve-O. Like
that's fair.
Steve-O, and this is the scramble, and then he just gets the piss beat out of him every play. Like, it's that's how Jaden Daniels plays quarter. So it's admirable, and I hope he's good. But if I had to pick between the two, I'd still probably lean Drake May.
That's fair.
The beef with Daniels is the weight. He's actually tall. He's like 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah,
but it's
dude.
it's the weight. It's some sites say 180, some say 200. It's the frame.
200. That's like with a lot.
Right.
There's no. If he's 200 pounds, somebody's lying.
It's kind of like what they were doing with Bryce Young before last year's draft. Where all of a sudden, before the combine, he's 210. Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm sure he is. Sure.
Yeah.
On smoke screens, before we launch into the Viking stuff, do you think the Giants actually pursuing a quarterback, is that one of those smoke screens?
They should pursue a quarterback. This is what, year 6 of Daniel Jones? What are we doing? If they roll into this season with Daniel Jones as their starter, Brian Daboll's getting fired by week 7. I think he'll be the first coach fired if that's their plan, because they can't keep doing this. And I said it last year. Like, the big talk about the Giants last year is like, okay, how can we pay Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones? Pretty simple. You pay Saquon Barkley and you don't pay Daniel Jones. That's like, you saw the peak. And everybody's like, oh my goodness, look at the steps that Daniel Jones took. He had 15 touchdown passes. We're making a big the amount of money he's making for such a, like, the bottom of the barrel, like, bar of what you need from a guy. Like, oh, Daniel Jones. Like, I think that they made a ginormous mistake bringing him back. They should have just, thanked him for his services, realized that is the absolute peak of what you can get from Daniel Jones is lean on the running game. Hopefully he doesn't turn the ball over. You might be able to win a wild card game against a team that's not as good, but once you face a real team, you're getting the snot beat out of you. So I think I'm sorry, guys. I forgot that was against Minnesota. So I think that they made a mistake there by I compared it a lot to what the Jaguars do with Blake Bortles. Like, they got to the AFC Championship game with Blake Bortles and like, crap, I guess we got to pay him. Like, no, you don't. Like, you can acknowledge that was very much a defensive built team that got you there. So I think that you don't have to be prisoners of the moment. You can acknowledge what things are good and what things are bad. The Giants need to acknowledge Daniel Jones isn't good. And if they're able to take a quarterback, even if they don't, if they stay put in, a Daniels or a May, and obviously Caleb Williams won't be there, and they don't love JJ McCarthy, okay, you don't have to take either of them. You can take a receiver. But, in the second, third round, if, you kind of like Michael Penix and he slips, you could take a flyer there. If you like Spencer Rattler, you can take a flyer there. But Daniel Jones shouldn't be the unquestioned starter going into this year. That's a bad mistake to be making.
Yeah, that's probably why there's so much stuff out there about whether or not if McCarthy slid all the way to 6, if they would do that. So I wanted to know, there's a lot of folks, many folks that think that that's just a play to try to make sure Malik Neighbors gets to them. And that makes a lot of sense, especially if they internally do like Jones and, the naysayers are just on the outside. All right. So on the Viking stuff, you're not totally embroiled in it like we are. So I'm super curious to know, when the first round of the draft shakes out, or basically Thursday night at 11 p.m., who do the Vikings end up with from a predictive angle from your standpoint?
Everybody seems to be pointing the arrows at McCarthy. And if, the reports right now are that Arizona's open for business at pick 4. And so, if the first 3 picks go by and it's 3 quarterbacks, and it's Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, or even if it's not, if Jaden Daniels doesn't go at 3rd and they like McCarthy more, trade up with Arizona from 11 to 4. If you really like JJ McCarthy, you do it. You get your hopefully future franchise quarterback. And if there is an offense that he could do well in, it would be, a Kevin O'Connell offense stemming from a Sean McVay system. It's such a quarterback friendly system where, a guy like JJ McCarthy, who played in a run heavy scheme in Michigan, this is going to be, a team that is going to run those, that outside zone, lean on play action, open up the middle of the field, and make life easier for the quarterback. It would make sense why people are pointing the finger at Minnesota as where JJ McCarthy would go. And if they like him and want to trade up for him, cool. I think that right now, if I had to guess, that would be the move, is trading up to 4 and getting McCarthy, which, by the way, the next pick is going to be fascinating too, because then that leaves Justin Herbert with Marvin Harrison Jr., which yes, please. I very much enjoy watching that. So, but if I had to guess right now, I think that it will be a trade up and they take McCarthy. I think that sometimes, the big headlines or whatever you want to call it, like, oh yeah, this makes sense. If it makes sense so much, it wouldn't make too much sense for it to not happen. So I think that's where we'll see him go.
At the top of the show, you instructed the Commanders not to overthink it and to just select Drake May. Is that where you predict he goes, or do you believe in the Vegas or the odds maker stuff that says Jaden Daniels will be their quarterback?
The stuff with Jaden Daniels is also weird because apparently, he was annoyed with the process and the visits with this. By the way, I know I'm going to stem off track, but forgive me. This is also why I hate this time of year. We're analyzing visits now. Like, oh man, yeah. he spent 2 days in New England, but he was only in Washington for what? Who cares? Can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah.
Who gives a shit? Oh, I hate it so much. It wouldn't surprise me if he ended up in Washington. If he does, though, and Drake May just falls into the laps of the Patriots, that would be quite something. If I had to guess, though, I still think Drake May's the pick. Again, sometimes like these things, I remember a few years ago whenever everybody's like, oh, the 49ers traded up to 3. It's for Mac Jones. Like, and the reason that they gave for that was because, oh, he's so much like Jimmy Garoppolo. If they wanted Jimmy Garoppolo, they already have Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah. Why would they give up heaven on earth to move mountains to try to get what they already have? So I think that you've had guys over the past few years that have last year it was Sam Howell, who I was a big Sam Howell stan. I didn't think it was going to be great, but I was like, I have to give Sam Howell a chance. I could we'll see where this goes. So did they go with another North Carolina quarterback? I think that would make the most sense right now, just because I think in terms of ceiling, he has the highest out of the remaining guys that will be there. You can make the argument overall he has the highest ceiling. Period. I think that I think he's great. So if I had to guess, I still think it's Drake May.
Okay.
Obviously, it's not a 0% chance that it is Jaden Daniels because it's so unpredictable at this time of year. But if I'm them, it's Drake May. Like, I'm not thinking twice about it.
Okay.
Fair. What do you? When round 1 officially is in the books, 11 p.m., 12 a.m., whatever it is, what is the one thing that you think is going to surprise the most folks in terms of a result with, oh, this team took this player or this team made this trade?
I think there will be a decent amount of movement because, like, Atlanta at 8 is a team that I've had circled for the past couple weeks because depending on how the board falls, like if you're Atlanta and Rome Odunze's sitting there, why not take him?
Yeah.
Like, if you can just make this offense OP as hell, like, just keep adding to it. You got Drake London. You can add Rome Odunze with Kyle Pitts, with Bijan Robinson, now with Kirk Cousins. Just go balls to the wall. And the argument is, well, they need, an edge rusher or another cornerback. Like, look, man, today's NFL, you got to score. And give me the team with the offense that I know can put up 35 if I need them to. It's great to have a defense that can limit teams. But once you get to the playoffs, man, teams are going to score. Ask the Steelers. Like, the past 7 years, they've had solid defenses in the regular season that limit teams. That's been their style of winning. It's like, if we keep this team below 20 points, we'll likely win. But if they score 21 or more, we are absolutely boned. And that was their style of winning. And every time they got into the playoffs, they faced a Kansas City team who ran laps around them. They faced Buffalo last year, who beat the snot out of them, played with their food for a little bit. And like, all right, I guess we should probably score one more touchdown just to put this out of reach. Like, give me the team that has an offensive juggernaut over the defensive team in today's NFL any day of the week. So if Malik Neighbors slides to 8, sprint to the podium, like, yep, but we got 2 dudes plus Kyle Pitts at tight end, Bijan Robinson, and we got Kirk. We're going to win 12 games in the NFC South, host a playoff game for the first time in this building. Don't think twice about it. So Atlanta's very intriguing, depending on how the board falls. And like if they do decide to go defensive player, like Dallas Turner, okay. I don't think that's worthy of it. The 8th overall pick. Trade back. Like, if you don't want to take a receiver, you just want to gather up some more draft picks, and you do want to take an edge rusher, you can trade back, like make a massive trade with the Bills if they want to hop up from 28 to 8. Make a massive trade back, go back to 28. There's a decent chance you can still get somebody like a Chop Robinson who tested freakishly at the combine. You can get him at 28. You probably still get just about the same value from Chop Robinson that you'll get out of Dallas Turner, or you can get a Latu from UCLA that might still be there. Like, there's plenty of guys that will be there that will give you good value rather than reach for a guy at 8. So I think that they should either, just beef up that offense and take one of those receivers if they're there. And also Chicago's the next pick, so they'll be like cursing God for not being able to get Rome Odunze to give to Caleb Williams. Or they trade back. I think that's what they should do. You can make the argument for Tennessee as well, although I think they're probably going to, go Joe Alt there just to give their offensive line and give Will Levis more protection. But there's a lot of teams that I think could trade down, that could trade up. I think Buffalo, if they don't make some sort of like splash trade by getting like a Brandon Ayuk or a DK Metcalf or something of that nature, they'll move up to take a receiver. I think the Steelers are a prime trade back candidate at 20 to maybe trade with the Bills, if they want like a Brian Thomas or something of that nature. Seattle could be a team to watch to trade back from 16, similar to the reasons why Atlanta should trade back, is if they're going to target an edge rusher, gain some extra picks, and get roughly the same value you would get if you stayed at 16. So I think there's going to be a lot of movement. I think that there's going to be a lot of teams who, just try to beef up their offense, as you should in today's NFL. I'd say the defense doesn't mean anything, obviously, but give me the team that can score points at will over the team that, thinks that it's cute when you hold the you hold, the Panthers to 6 points. That's cool. Have fun facing the Dolphins, have fun facing the Bills, and see if that works in games that matter. So beef up your offense, I guess, is my that if I was running for president of the NFL, that would be my campaign slogan, I think. Beef up the offense.
There you go.
All right, the last thing I got for you is Vikings themed. Let's operate under the pretense that the Vikings walk out of the draft with Drake May, who you really like, JJ McCarthy, or Michael Penix is kind of like their, oh shit, we couldn't make the trade, we gotta get Penix. Between those 3 men, do you think Sam Darnold will be the Vikings starter in week 1 no matter what, or do you think one of those guys would supplant him?
I think you're paying Sam Darnold $10 million. You're going to start on week 1 regardless. And I think that there's a feeling of, we don't have to rush this. This isn't a year that we feel like if Sam Darnold is your offseason quarterback signing, like, where's the chance you're not going to win the Super Bowl? Unless something, chaotic happens where, it's week 3 and you're like, okay, you know what? We believe in Drake May. Throw him out there. We could see a situation. Dak Prescott was really good as a rookie. Ben Roethlisberger is really good as a rookie. There's been cases of it. It's rare, but it's certainly possible. I think if you pay a guy that type of money, he's starting week 1, regardless of what happens. And like I said, I don't think that they feel the need to rush this. Okay. I think their biggest concern right now is locking up Justin Jefferson for the future, making sure that you take care of that rookie quarterback that you have, and keeping the best receiver in football on his side. But it's important, whoever they take is going to play at some point at this season. Like, this isn't going to be, unless Sam Darnold surprises all of us and just, is a few years ago when he signed with the Panthers, they started off like 3-0, and I was leading the Chargers like, Sam Darnold, he's proving everybody wrong, and then it all fell apart. So unless Sam Darnold just really unlocks something, we're going to see whoever that rookie quarterback is. And then at that point, it's okay, what can we do to ensure that he is successful and give him all the tools to be successful? And like I said, in that offense, that's a good start. Having Justin Jefferson, that's, a great start as well. Having TJ Hawkinson, they just signed Aaron Jones from Green Bay. So whoever that rookie quarterback is going to have, some reliable tools and weapons around him. I love Brian Flores as defensive coordinator, and I love that he's unapologetically himself. And he's just like, "Yep, I'm gonna blitz the piss out of you. Good luck. you know what's coming. Stop it." So the Vikings are fascinating to me because I love Kevin O'Connell as a head coach. By the way, is there like this thing with Vikings fans that don't like Kevin O'Connell?
It's a really weird thing. I think it's more Kwesi than Kevin O'Connell, but there's definitely a fraction of Vikings fans that's like, okay, it's been 2 years, we haven't done anything yet.
Yeah, I certainly recall last season at some point, like after Kirk had gotten hurt, they're like, we got to move on from O'Connell. I'm like, bro, you're starting Josh Dobbs. Calm down. Like, there's some fans are just way over the top, but regardless, Kevin O'Connell, one of the best, play callers, head coaches of that McVay-esque type tree in the league. And having one of those guys in today's NFL, I mean, that's an instant, bonus, something that you have in your back pocket as a team. I think they have a good overall structure around them, from the top to the coaching staff and to what there's clearly a proof of concept here where they have a vision in mind. And that's why I think Drake May, if they can get him, that is even, if you're a Vikings fan, hope that the Commanders take Jaden Daniels. Hope that you can somehow convince the Patriots to not take Drake May and trade up to 3, because that would be a dream scenario for Minnesota. Having that type of quarterback with that type of defense, both sides of the ball just going balls to the wall, I think would be very fun for the Vikings. So regardless of who that quarterback is, I think that Darnold starts week 1. Okay. We'll see that quarterback at some point this season. Come back to me when the NFL schedule comes out, and I'll be able to probably pinpoint a point where that quarterback does take over.
We're gonna do that then.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That is one of my favorite things to do. We did it. We did it with Will Levis last year on my podcast, where we're like, all right, let's look at the Titans schedule. Week 11, maybe. I think it. Because they had an early bye week, I believe, and it was after London. Yeah. I think it might have been after the London game, and we were on the podcast, and it was like, it was probably August, looking at the schedule and be like, bye week, then going into a home game against Atlanta, that makes sense. And then obviously that ended up happening, and he threw 4 touchdowns of like 90 yards apiece and looked like God. So it's fun playing that game. So come back to me when the schedule comes out, and we might be able to pinpoint where, McCarthy or May or God save the Queen, Michael Penix is gonna be starting for Minnesota. But is that like a real thing where, like, if they stay put, people were like, "I'll take Penix at 11." I don't think that's great.
Listen to this. About a week and a half ago, I did this thing where I had 3 random fans that I had never met. They just came on the StreamYard, and I asked them all of their Vikings takes. And at the end, I asked each of them for a prediction, not what they wanted. And all 3 dudes from separate corners of the country, their prediction was Michael Penix at 23. I think one of them said at 11, the other 2 said at 23. But
I forgot that they made that trade with Houston. Yeah, so they got the extra.
Yeah, right. And this is after weeks, if not months, of us being bogged down in a binary choice between May and McCarthy, at least for a prediction. And so, I thought I was being trolled. And I mean, I don't have a humongous beef with Michael Penix. I just really enjoy the upsides more of Drake May, of course, and then secondarily JJ McCarthy. But I couldn't believe it. All of them were like, yeah, here's what I think they're going to do. They're going to get a defensive player, and they're going to get Penix because they weren't able to trade up the board. Oh. And for one guy to say that would have been noteworthy, but 3 dudes.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's like that meme where it's like, if I had a nickel for every time this happened, I'd only have 3 nickels, but it's crazy that it happened 3 times. And that's another thing with this time of year, man. It's, I understand why we do it, because quarterback's the most important position in sports, and, that whole mumbo jumbo. But when we have to analyze every quarterback and explain why they're going to be a star and why they could, really set the league on, no, they won't. At best case scenario, one of them ends up being really good. Another one ends up being pretty good, good enough, maybe like, I don't know, like a Jared Goff type where, fine starter, you could do better, but you could do worse. And then the rest of them are going to be dudes who, in 6 years, you're going to see somebody in week 12 marching onto the field as a starter. You're like, oh my God, Jimmy Clausen's still in the league. That's crazy. So it's going to be that's how it is. That's how the NFL works. And all 6 of these dudes aren't going to be studs. And it's very rare you get a draft class where 3 of them are good.
Mhm.
You know, 04, you had Ben, Eli, Phillip. What was the most recent one? I guess you had Burrow, Tua, Herbert. Was that all the same class?
Love. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And Love. Okay,
Hurts.
so that's another one right now that looks pretty fucking good. So, but again, it's so rare where there was, a big gap between it. So I don't expect 5 starting caliber quarterbacks to come out of another class within 4 years of each other. I think there's going to be, a noticeable gap before we get something like that again. I think that Caleb Williams will probably be pretty solid. I think Drake May, has a high ceiling and can be pretty good. The rest of these guys, man, again, love my boy Thor. I don't know where this JJ McCarthy hype thing is coming from because his I'm going to sound very I think that he's actually leading it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, being a Penn State fan and watching enough Big Ten football where his job was, here you go, Blake Corum, run for 7 yards a pop. I don't see it with him. Again, I'm not wishing failure upon him.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing with Bo Nix and Michael Penix, dudes who are now 24 years old, who've been in college for 6 years. And I'm supposed to automatically believe now that they're going to be great. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm very much, when I look at what's around them and, the stories about them, I can piece together enough to say, okay, he's probably not going to be very good. That's why I didn't, from day one, as a Steelers fan, when they drafted Pickett, everybody I knew was sending me their condolences. And I was like, yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's another reason why I'm just very, very much ready for the draft to be over, so we don't have to constantly say, "Oh, Michael Penix could be there." No, he can't. He's probably not gonna be. Like, let's tone it down a notch.
All right, good sir. We will hit you up in about a month, so we can do because we're gonna have to do the scheduling unless something happens where they don't draft any quarterback or it's some asshole.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah. Then it would be a moot, but we'd still have you on.
Who's their backup right now?
Nick Mullins.
He's still there? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. Jarrett Hall, if you want to get crazy.
Yeah. If you want to get.
Lord Almighty. Yeah. When I talked to Puka Nacua, and he loves Jarrett Hall. Obviously he's going to hype up his boy because it's his college quarterback. Mm-hmm. But good for Jarrett Hall, preseason hero Jarrett Hall.
Yeah. Right.
All right, so we can find you USA Today, Touchdown Wire, Steel Curtain, and A to Z Sports. Is that correct? Do you have a podcast of your own?
Yeah, you can listen to the Pump Fake wherever you get your podcast. You can watch it on YouTube. And continue reading all the work at USA Today, Behind the Steel Curtain, A to Z.
Behind the Steel Curtain, my bad.
No, it's okay. Everywhere that I'm doing work right now. The latest piece I did came out this morning, actually, over on Touchdown Wire. 35 quarterbacks, 35 non-football comparisons. It's going to become like I did this last year. It's going to become like an annual thing, like the week of the draft.
Okay.
So 35 quarterbacks, 35 non-football comparisons. I'll give you the exclusive Vikings one. I compared Sam Darnold to Aeropostale, and the reason that I gave that was because I was in a mall probably about a month ago because it was my sister's birthday and we were going shopping and whatnot. And I saw an Aeropostale. I was like, how in God's name is Aeropostale still a thing? That's how I feel every time Sam Darnold signs a contract. It's like, really, Sam Darnold again? We're doing this. All right. So that was my Sam Darnold comparison, was Aeropostale. Go read the rest of the 34 on Touchdown Wire.
And we shall. All right, Jared, we'll talk to you in about a month. Josh, we'll talk to you tomorrow with Jackson McIntyre, all right?
Sounds good. See you, fellas.
Yeah, thank you, Jarrett. Take it easy.
Absolutely, boys.